So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
Hey y'all, it's Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. Picture this. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app when you spot it. A brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hello to everybody who just learned something new about the word deli. It's Beautiful Anonymous, 1 hour. One phone call. No names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi, everybody. I know you might not love a long intro. I'll put you right towards the beginning of the call. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much, and thanks for a great 10 years. Hi, everybody. Chris Gethard here, and welcome to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous, the show where we look at the human condition, one anonymous phone call at a time. This week's episode, it's really great. Like many episodes, it works on a few levels, and I would say on this one, I'm not going to spoil it. The caller's living situation that he was in for many years is sitcom level cartoonish. And as soon as you hear it, you're going to start chuckling. And then I think I ask a bunch of the questions you would want to ask, and we have a lot of fun. Then on top of it, you're also going to hear I think it's fair to say we've had callers from all over the world, but primarily this is a show that has focused in many ways on the experience of being an American starting in 2016. Think about that. Think about all the directions America started going in 2016 and how this show in a lot of ways could be described as a record of conversations regarding how people are navigating life in America 2016 to 2026. Now, we've had callers from other countries. We have at times had phone calls to try to appeal to people from other parts of the world. But I think by and large, that's true. Even when we have callers who are not from America, very often there is a bit of a lens of how do you view my country? How do we input together with me being an American host? I don't think it's a stated goal. It's just the nature of the beast. This is a caller who I would argue the undercurrent and kind of the B story of the whole thing is about an American experience the caller's having that I think used to mean certain things and reflect certain values, and now I don't know that it does. And in that sense, we get to have a really, really funny call about a living situation and also look at a call about navigating America, becoming American, in a way that I think is so fitting for what this show is. And if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I think I've done a lot of cool stuff in my career. I have a friend, Cal goes to school with this girl. He's in the same grade as this girl, and her mom is she's really cool, really lovely. If she hears this, hi, Jen, I am talking about you. And she was telling me the other day that she thinks I have a cool career and that she's like, you just get to have more fun than most people. And that is true. And I explained to her, it's also stressful. I've also never known if it was going away in 6 months' time. I think a lot of people have been feeling the squeeze that I have felt for the entirety of my career, in that, man, I'm punching above my weight. I've managed to keep living just by working as an artist and finding ways. But for all the fun I've had, for all the travels I've been able to do, should I get hit by a bus 10 minutes after I record this, I really do think that Beautiful Anonymous is the thing I've done that deserves to stand the test of time. And that's a glimpse into where we're all at. And I think this week's episode is that in a big way. So I really sincerely hope you enjoy it. If you want more with this caller and all our other callers, and if you're looking for a way to ensure that this show can survive and thrive for more years beyond year 10, beautifulanonymous.com. Go sign up. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello. Can you hear me? You're a bit silent.
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now I can. Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Yeah, things are good. I'm liking your vibe.
It's a good day. I mean, what's not to be about a good vibe about?
Yeah, I'm actually leaving for the airport right after this call.
Ooh, nice. Hopefully somewhere good.
Edinburgh, Scotland.
Sounds about good.
I think it should be fun, yeah. I think it should be fun. I haven't been there in a few years, and the last time I went, it was very stressful, so I'm glad to go back and get some new memories there.
Nice.
How are you?
I'm all good. Been doing some work from home today. Weather was a bit bad in the morning, so I didn't want to drive into work and risk anything. I mean, you know, it's winter in New York, but other than that, it's a good day, and now the sun's out, so that's also nice.
Now, you say you're in New York.
Yes.
Your accent does not...
Yeah, not the city.
Upstate somewhere?
Oh, well, I'm originally from Germany.
Yeah, I was going to say, your accent is not traditional New York.
No, not really.
Now, I'm going to Germany for the first time in about a month. I've never been.
I did listen to the episode that was released earlier today, and I was like, wait, is he? Oh, he's going to Mainz. Nice.
Oh, is that how you spell it? I say it. I've been saying Mainz. This is good.
Yeah, it's Mainz.
You can educate me. That's good. It's Mainz. And Hallie's coming with me.
Perfect timing.
I'm going to be working a lot during the day. Is Mainz a good place for Hallie to like roam around and find fun stuff to do? Or is she going to be bored?
Depends on what she's into. I mean, it's got a lot of history, so that's cool. And I mean, that's kind of all of Europe. So if you're into that kind of stuff, there's lots to see, you know.
Yeah, we're going to be in Mainz for a bunch of days and then 2 days in Frankfurt.
Yep, Frankfurt is nice. It's actually, I'm originally from Würzburg, which is only about an hour 15 southeast of Frankfurt.
So you know that area super well.
Yeah, although I have to say, when it comes to Frankfurt, I mostly ever just went there to go to the airport, because that's the big one to fly out of. And Mainz is already so far for Germans, because we're not used to those long distances like here in the U.S., where a day trip is like 45 minutes one way, and we'll do something then, and we drive for 45 minutes back.
I have to ask, how'd you wind up in the non-New York City part of New York? Because it's very common to meet people who have moved from Europe to New York City. I think when you get out of New York City, it's a little less common.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So I live in, I guess, what the people in the city consider upstate, and I have ended up here a little over 12 years ago because of my now ex-wife. We met in Germany when I was studying there as a regularly enrolled student. She was there doing a year abroad. We met towards the end of that. Things clicked. We figured, let's just see what happens. And then she decided to enroll as a regular student. Things moved along further. We eventually got married, and then she became more homesick. I was ready for something new. So we moved upstate close to, well, pretty much exactly the town where she grew up in. And that's how I ended up in New York, not the city.
And do you have kids together?
No, we do not. We had a dog together, but he became kind of a victim of divorce.
I got to ask, and I don't know what went down exactly, but when you move to a different continent and move to an area where you're probably an outlier, you're probably not meeting too many other people from abroad, let alone Europe, let alone Germany, and you do it for love and then it doesn't work out. That sucks. Like whatever was at the core of it, I don't know who's blaming who on this one. Fundamentally, that sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Although I was at that point when we split up, I was already way more established. I had like a good circle of friends and a good circle of activities going around me. So other than the obvious, love fails and marriage fails, that really sucks. I had a pretty good social net to fall back upon. So from that aspect, it was actually all right. And coincidentally, there are quite a handful of German organizations in the entire New York State area. And one of them, and it's in my city as well, is the German Choir. And I have been a member there almost since the first 6 months or so of moving here to the US. So ironically, I did meet quite a lot of people from Germany, although they're all about, on average, 40 to 50 years older than me.
So you have a community. You have you got a lot of like auntie and uncle energy in your life. It just happens to all be decades older.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But also I started going to school again when I moved here because I studied English literature and German history in Germany, and it was not too fruitful. And then moving here, I decided to also go back to school. But I was at that point already 25, so I didn't meet a lot of people through the school, really, which was also strange. I was always like a handful of years older than the rest of them. But it wasn't until our city started up a local semi-pro soccer team. And no, I'm not a player, but I'm a very avid fan. So there's a really active fan scene here, and I became really involved with the local fan club, and met a lot of really great people through that.
It sounds like a lot of the people you're hanging out with are either decades younger than you or decades older than you.
That's at least how it started out, yes. Nowadays, thank God, other than the people still from the choir organization, but my friendship circle and everything, they are now pretty much all the same age as me. So it's a little easier relating to similar topics as we are in similar stages of life. But yeah, it was definitely a bit of an interesting start in the beginning, not having many friends and it was interesting. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is definitely a unique path that you've walked, and I'm glad I get to talk to you today.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's so far it's been going well, and I honestly, despite everything what happened with the separation and the divorce, things are working out well. Yeah.
Good. And are you planning on staying in the States post marriage?
No. So a little fast forward. So originally my ex-wife and we split up in late 2018. I was at that point still going to college, finishing up my degree. I had till May of 2019 till graduation, and then so we split up. And then my plan was, okay, well, I got a degree. It's probably easier if I just find a job here right now, because I already did have an internship. And the company promised to hire me, which they also did right out of college. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm single now. I got pretty much, other than, of course, the friends, nothing that holds me back. And I'm the only one of my family this side of the Atlantic. So I figured, okay, I'll work here in the US for a year, maybe 2 years, get a little bit of some experience under my belt, and then I would move back to Germany. Well, I mean, we all know what happened a year after May of 2019. Was a bit hard moving internationally, let alone finding jobs, as everyone else was at the very least on hold or laying people off. So I decided, okay, I gotta, hunker down, ride this one out. And in fall of 2020, I actually met a very lovely lady that, as of July this past year, is now my second wife, and we are very happy together. She's perfect, but we have also talked about moving. It was actually, we met in September. I had our first date September 26th, and about November or so, as it was clear things like becoming a bit more serious. I had a more of a serious sit-down conversation with her, and I told her, like, listen, so as you know, I'm from Germany, duh. And I got a big question I got to ask you, because you never know what happens in life, but do you think you could ever see yourself moving to Germany? And I told her very specifically, listen, I'm not expecting an answer right now. I'd rather you go home, think about this long and hard for a week or so, or however long you need, and then give me the answer that's really true to how you feel about it. Because if you feel you need to say, yes, I would move to Germany with you, and then, I don't know, 10 years down the road, we might have some kids, we might have a house, or whatever, and also the big opportunity opens up, or I need to move home to take care of family or something like that, and a move is really on the horizon, and you never feel like you actually really wanted to move, then we got a really big problem, and we kind of also wasted each other's times to a certain degree. But she told me right away, nope, that is absolutely not a problem. I know for a fact that I would really welcome the idea of moving to Europe again, given that she has lived a year in England and she's lived 3 years in Spain. She's been to Germany a few times. She was absolutely open to the idea. And, well, again, a few years later, now here we are married, and we're very, very seriously planning to move to Germany in about a year and a half to 2 years from now.
That sounds great. That sounds like as far as having a rough patch, having a marriage disintegrate, sounds like the bounce back has gone about as smooth as it could. I'm happy to hear that.
Yes. No, it was it really worked well. And one of the things that when I was on the phone with Andrea and she asked, well, what is something I could talk about? One thing that made all of these life moments till now a bit more interesting is I did tell her that after my ex-wife and I split up, I still lived with her mother, aka my mother or ex-mother-in-law at this point, and we lived for a while together. Well, I lived with her, and we were really good friends, and it's just not one of those typical things that you would usually see. Especially, it was very interesting in that summer of 2019 when I was just deciding to go out and explore life a little bit. I mean, things like Tinder and Bumble and whatnot were all invented while I was in a committed relationship, and then I gave all of those a test ride.
Wait,
it was a very
how long did you live with your ex-mother-in-law?
So we split up late 2018, and I moved out early 2022, and moved in with my now wife. Yes. So about 3.5 years we lived together. Yes.
What are you talking about? Wait, your marriage goes by the wayside. Had you already been living with your mother-in-law and your ex moved out, or did you move in with your mother-in-law after breaking up with your ex? How does that even happen?
So the way it happened is, like I said, we originally were living together in Germany and then moved to the US.
Uh-huh.
And the plan was we'd first move into her mom's apartment, just as a first landing point, because apartment hunting from abroad is not the easiest. So we arrived in December 2013. December 2013. Jeez, I'm almost getting my years confused. We arrived in December 2013, moved in with her mom. First, the plan was, like a few months, find our own apartment, and it actually all worked out. We all got along well, worked well. Not gonna lie, it was also good for everybody involved to save a little money instead of each involved party, so to speak, having to worry about costs for their own apartment. And then about a year after we moved in together in that apartment, my ex-wife's grandma had to be transferred to a nursing home, and she had a house, although just a small house, about, I don't know, I think like 1,200 square feet, single floor. And things were still going well. And again, why waste money? So we all together moved into that house, about 15 minutes away from where we originally lived. And we were living there. And then late 2018, well, at that point, in all honesty, there were already some signs on the wall that things were not great. And my ex has, staying over at a friend's house and this and that a lot. I personally was just really stressed out with the college and just, I knew what was going on, but I just somehow had to start compartmentalizing.
So when you say sleeping over, was she was seeing someone else on the side?
Yes, but I only found that out after a few years. I mean, I had quite some inclinations, but nothing down to the concrete where I could say I had like black and white or like the hard proof. But I've met up with some friends of hers, and I'm still in contact with some friends of hers. And I found out then later at one point when we sat together and had an evening with drinks and chats that she definitely has been seeing somebody already for a few months at that point. And then she quote unquote broke up with me, and then essentially right away moved out in with I'm strongly assuming in with her new partner, and her mom. It was of course a few awkward weeks around that time. Of course, I didn't expect to instantly have to move literally the next day out, but then at one point her mom came to me and said, "Listen," I talked to her and I said, "This is just as much his home as it is yours. And you have moved out. And if you want to, be with whoever you want to be, that's fine. But he has just as much of a right to stay here as you do." Wow. And that was kind of what her mom told me.
Wow.
And then, and it worked well. And we just got along really well, still get along really well. It's not the typical story that you always hear about, the mother-in-laws are the monsters. No, but it's not the case at all. And ultimately after I moved out in 2022, when I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we still remain in contact. We still call each other regularly, and we only live about 15 minutes apart or so. So we still see each other for dinners somewhat regularly. And we even invited her to our wedding, although she declined. We, meaning my wife and I, think that probably what happened is that my ex said, "No, you can't go to that wedding."
Do you ever see your ex anymore, or just her mom?
Just her mom. I see the ex here and there occasionally if we run into each other, around the city or town. I mean, depends on what you want to call it size-wise. But we don't have a lot of overlap really in our circles that we move these days. So, occasionally we run into each other. We're friendly with each other. There's not real any animosity from my side or whatnot. It is what it is. Ultimately, I strongly believe I'm in a way better place now, a better relationship than I was with her. And to a certain degree, as weird as it sounds, kind of have to thank her for that, that she made the decision, kind of forced my hand, I guess. And I'm now with a person that I couldn't be happier about.
I'm glad it ended well.
That being said, it's gonna come across a little bad. It's not that my ex-wife is a horrible person or anything. I just want to make sure, like, she's still a lovely person, and we definitely had great times together. But it, quote unquote, has run its course.
No, I don't think it doesn't sound like you're trashing her, throwing her under the bus in any way. I don't think anybody listening would say that. It sounds like you both ended up in a happier place. It sounds like you certainly are better off in this current relationship than you would have been long-term in that one. So I don't think anybody would judge the tone or the tenor of how you're putting things out there. Even when you said she was seeing someone else, that was because I directly asked. Like, you've done nothing but right. So I wouldn't worry about that. I have to ask some questions though. So now that we're on the other side of it and everybody seems in a happier place, you're living with your ex-mother-in-law and your wife is gone.
Yes.
There have to be some times where you wind up talking about the situation with your current roommate, who is the mother of the person who just totally upended all of this. So what's it like to have, like when I had roommates, I would have bro time with those roommates. I would have heart-to-heart talks with my roommates. Do you ever have a heart-to-heart with your mother-in-law about what was happening?
Yeah, occasionally. But of course, very cordial, but also very honest, but in no way, shape, or form in a bad way. I mean, first of all, I would like to think I'm not the type of person that just chat talks everybody left and right. And secondly, I mean, there is, of course, the element of, well, it's literally her daughter we're talking about right now. Although I do believe that part of the element that played into all of this, whether it's those conversations or from the get-go, the fact that I remained living there and she made that possible with her original conversation she had with the daughter, was, I guess, the fact that she also kind of knew that my ex-wife has, at the very least towards the end, not necessarily been her best behavior.
Sure.
Like
You're being very kind. You're being so kind in laying it out. So your mother-in-law kind of figured the deal was that you were getting the short end of the stick a little bit.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, 3.5 years, you're hitting up the apps.
Yeah.
You wind up moving out to be with the person you're now once again married to. So you were out there, you were dating. Everybody listening is wondering, did you ever bring someone home to your place to spend the night and then you all wake up and have breakfast with your ex-mother-in-law? You were all thinking it, so we're going to pause there. Everybody was thinking it. I asked the question, we'll get the answer. And the answers to a lot of questions you've been thinking when we get back. Thanks to the advertisers who have helped this show survive for a decade. Now let's get back to the phone call. Did you ever bring someone home to your place to spend the night and then you all wake up and have breakfast with your ex-mother-in-law?
I've had people over, whether it was a one-night stand or whether it was just like a fling. I also had in between there like a little relationship that lasted for about the better part of a year, that led out to the back porch and from there out to the street. And I had an ensuite bathroom. But if it was something bit more on the serious side, after a while I would of course introduce them and say, hey, so I would go to my mother-in-law and be like, hey, so I've been seeing this one girl and things are a bit serious. So I'm would like for you to meet her at some point, and vice versa. And the meeting would happen, and then of course after a while, we my girlfriend or one of the flings would just stay over for a little while, or in the evenings we would watch maybe a movie together or so. Now we were never had the cliche breakfast, just because none of us really were breakfast people. But yes, if you take that out of the equation, we had these what I guess could be considered awkward moments, although they never felt awkward to me at least, and I don't think that they were awkward to most other people either. It was very funny at one point.
I have to.
Yeah.
Oh no! It was funny. What at one point? What?
At one point, I had this one girl I was seeing for several weeks, and she insisted, she says, "No, I'm not going to sneak in and out the back door like some kind of, whatever. I'm going to be polite. You will have me come into the front door." I was like, okay, and well, we would meet up, go for dinner, end up at mine, and then a few hours later she would leave or so. Yeah, it was what it was.
I want to make sure I heard correctly. At one point, it sounded like you said when you dated someone long enough that there were occasions where you would have a date over and you, your date, and your ex-mother-in-law would all stay in and watch a movie together. I want to make sure I heard that right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That definitely did happen. We would. Now this was not like the kind of I would just be with somebody for a few days, something like that. Like I said, this one relationship that I had that was more of a longer, serious relationship. After a while, she would come over too, and we would either watch a movie or a show together here and there in the evening. Do something like that. Yep. Or let's go have some ice cream, and I would ask. Of course, I would check in with my partner first if she's cool with it, and we would sometimes
You would
be like,
bring
hey,
your
mother-in-law,
your ex-mother-in-law for ice cream dates?
Yes.
I mean, it's so funny and it's so unique. And you also know this is really bizarre, right? You've been told by other people in your life that this is incredibly bizarre.
I'm very aware of it. In the beginning, it was always a bit weird, especially, if I was meeting people, for example, my now wife, like, so here's the kind of deal. I also still live with my mother-in-law because we were not divorced at that point yet, but, separated and this and that. Like the divorce actually happened during that entire time. But yeah, it's I was aware it was very awkward, and I kind of had that same kind of feeling about it as I was approaching these conversations. But after a while, I just figured, you know what, life's short. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We are friends. We get along well. It's an odd situation. It's a very odd situation, but there's no need to somehow feel, ashamed of it or anything. And nowadays it's perfect fine. Like, yeah, no, I lived with my ex-mother-in-law for a few years. Here's what it is.
That is so funny. I've got to ask. I'm just going to be crass. Apologies. And if you're like, well, I don't want to go there, then we don't go there. But I know for a fact that when I lived with a roommate, there were times where you could hear stuff through the walls. Did your mother-in-law ever hear you have sex with someone after her daughter left you? Did your mother ever hear anything that you know of?
To be honest, I honestly don't know because it never was a topic. But there were probably a few times where I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of noises, and whether it was just a bed frame or any of the likes causing said noises. She just never brought it up, and obviously I had enough tact not to bring it up myself.
Was your mother-in-law dating at the same time?
Yes, but more of a she's in her 60s now, so she was in her late 50s around that time. She had been dating, but it was more of I guess not so much of the sexual kind, I guess.
So
but then again, maybe there were times where I was out of the house and I wasn't aware of anything.
But to your knowledge, there was never a point where you were in one room getting it on and your mother-in-law was in the other room getting it on. To your knowledge, that never happened.
I would bet money that has not happened.
This is wild. I have to say, too, there's something so sweet about it, despite the strangeness. The idea that after, dating someone for a while, you'd want to make sure to introduce them to your mother-in-law. The idea that you invited her to the wedding and that she felt it out, but felt like it wasn't the right fit boundary-wise. It almost sounds like in some ways you connected with her on a mother-son level as much as mother-in-law, son-in-law level.
I would agree with that. Yes. There's a lot of and like I said, to this day we still see each other. There's a lot that I owe her. And when we go out for dinner, and me and my wife were very much like, no, it's a modern day and age. It's not the guy always has to pay. But when I go out when my mother-in-law comes along, she will never have to pay a single cent for any activity or dinner that we do, just because I owe her so much. In fact, when we moved here, green cards are a thing, and I needed a green card sponsor. And the only person that was within the realm of people that we knew that also would have had the means to be a sponsor for my green card was my mother-in-law. And it was because of that I was able to move here in the first place. And when I got my citizenship in 2024, I got the letter, and the letter said I am allowed 2 invites to the ceremony. And of course, my fiance at the time, now wife, of course she had to come, but there was one other spot available, and I called my ex-mother-in-law and I told her, hey, so this is happening. I would be absolutely honored if you were one of my guests. And she was then one of my 2 officially invited guests to my citizenship ceremony.
I am very, very aware of the position I'm putting you in, where it seems like you are a stand-up guy and you do not want to ever tread on something that sounds like trashing your ex. And I respect the hell out of that. So if you can't answer this, that's okay. Do you get the sense she's still tight with her daughter? Like I'm only wondering because to maintain this level of closeness with you, I wonder if she's able to balance that with a closeness with her daughter, or maybe if there was some distance between them either ahead of this or caused by this. I wonder if you know.
I think that they have a very, very pretty normal relationship at this point, at the very least. Yeah, and sometimes we talk about her, or we talk about the dog that my ex-wife and I had. I think that at this point, it's just like very normal between the 2 of them.
What a really special relationship, and really hilarious, and definitely like something out of an 80s sitcom in so many ways. But it also sounds so genuinely special.
Yeah, thank you.
When you may have mentioned it before, when are you planning on moving back to Europe with your new wife?
So we're kind of hoping maybe the summer of 27, summer, fall, potentially might take a little bit longer, late into 2027. But that's about the time frame that we're hoping for, provided, of course, it's okay for me to find a job, and then, of course, finding a place to live, etc. But I'm pretty sure we might be able to repeat what I've done so far, just in reverse. And in the beginning, maybe move in with my father. He lives in a really big apartment that has 2 extra bedrooms, and one of them is always the constant guest bedroom whenever we're there, and just use that as a launching point. But this time, hopefully, it being a launching point and not a landing pad.
I am praying this doesn't happen. But if this somehow ends with another separation and your current wife living with your dad, then at that point, it's just actual insanity.
If that was to be the case, I would definitely reach out to you again.
Oh, and let me just reiterate. It's the last thing I'm hoping for. It's the last thing I'm rooting for.
Absolutely.
If God forbid something does come to pass where it doesn't work out, it is the funniest way, though. We all must admit, the funniest way.
It is definitely a hilarious thing to imagine.
Wow.
Yep.
I can't pretend that me and my mother-in-law would survive living together. I don't think either would say that. Either one of us would say that. We're on decent terms. I think she and I are on good terms. She likes me. It's not like persona non grata stuff. But I can't imagine us being roommates for 10 minutes.
I mean, it is like living with anybody that you live with. There's, of course, occasionally some kind of, little conflict here and there about things, but I wouldn't say that any of the times that we did clash was out of the ordinary, or was especially because of the constellation of what or who we were to each other. It was just, standard thing like, hey, maybe don't leave the dirty dishes in the sink all the time, or something to that nature.
Just real roommate shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really what it was.
That is so sweet and so funny. And I would not wish it upon myself nor my worst enemy.
It's definitely been interesting, and sometimes I look at the way my life has gone so far, and I think it kind of fits into this entire theme of it's not been the most cookie cutter.
Yeah. Any other notable examples of that?
Not so super notable, but also not super common. I guess, like I had mentioned earlier, that I did study in Germany at first, and that was just very unfruitful. And then I pursued a quote unquote career of very odd jobs here and there. One of my still to this day favorite unimportant jobs that I've ever had, as I like to call it, was being a projectionist in a movie theater in Germany. And then, unfortunately, they had to let me go because of a projectionist. Like, I was the guy up in the projection room putting the reels in the machines for the.
Got it. Projectionist. Yeah. They had to let you go.
Of course, digital machines versus analog machines. It is the way of the future. And then after that, I worked at the farmers market in the city where I'm from, for one of those stands there, setting it up in the morning, selling, taking it down in the evening. And then when I moved to the US, what does a quote unquote good German study when he goes to university? Engineering. But why did I not study it in Germany, but waited till I moved to the US?
Wow. So now you have an engineering degree now?
I do have an engineering degree now. That is correct. Yes. And, it was very good that I attempted it when I did. I had a much different, more adult mindset, and got definitely a way better grades than I would have gotten for my previous studies. And other than that, I work in a job now that's going very well. Ironically, I didn't know when I applied for the job. I found it through one of the local job portals. That was after, during the COVID, I was working for this one company. And then it was time to, find a better job. And I was looking, and one of the companies I applied for, and they called me up for an interview, and I had the phone interview, and then, maybe we want you to come in for an in-person interview. And it was during the process when I did a little bit of reading up, and I realized, so now I am, and it's very coincidentally not planned, I ended up at the American branch of a German company here in the US.
Nice. I'm going to ask you a question a little bit out of left field. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
So you mentioned you got citizenship in 2024. Congratulations. Yeah. And also I'm, as an American, psyched you even wanted to do that during this era of American history. Meaningful thing. Thing for you to do and for me to see. My understanding is that it's a pretty rigorous process, and you have to learn a lot about American history, and that the test is not easy. And I also have always heard that for a lot of its history, America was very much, especially, in its growth as a country and from the colonial days, everybody thinks of it being English colonies, but I've always heard that there was a huge amount of German influence in the early days of America. And everything you read, anybody who's like nerdy enough to care about history will read up that this lasted pretty much through World War I and World War II, at which point the nature of the two nations being enemies meant that a lot of that was kind of intentionally moved on from, swept under the rug. And you hear stories that there were entire towns where business was conducted in German or school classes were taught in German because there was such heavy German influence. Having grown up in the States, I have to say, I don't necessarily get a sense of the effects of that, but I almost wonder if, as someone from Germany who gained American citizenship, if you see more of the traces of German influence here than I would, having grown up here. It was a good question, right? Boom. This is why I've been getting paid the medium diminishing bucks for 10 years now. Because I'm asking the good questions out here. More good questions just like that one when we get back. Thanks again to our advertisers. Now let's finish off the phone call. It was a good question, right?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think there's some things that, of course, are very, very obvious when it comes to things like, okay, that's a kindergarten or that's a deli coming from the German delicatessen. There's definitely some of these things
News to me.
where the
Delicatessen is a German word?
German
I
immigrants-
just learned that as you said it. Had no idea.
Yes.
Grown up with delicatessens my
Delicatessen is
entire
actually
life.
the German. Yeah, it's the German for delicacies.
Wow, okay. Right there, boom.
Yep. And of course, it got shortened into deli. So I see these things, of course, all the time. Then the area where I'm at, although more so influenced by the Dutch heritage, we also have a lot of German heritage in the area. There's a really good German butcher about 20 minutes from where I live. And it was only until a few months ago that it was still run by the original family, just being passed on to the kids. Now it was bought by a cousin. Technically still a little bit more German, but it's very great. I get to go up there and get really good meats, and I'm looking for something very specific that people here either wouldn't know, would be hard to find. I walk in and I was like, hey, I need meat for rouladen, and they'd be like, yep, how much do you need? And I would get it. And then of course I did mention it earlier, the German choir. We have there's an entire umbrella organization of German choirs of New York State. There's also another umbrella organization of German choirs of New York City, and there's a lot of that going around. And we meet up with those German choirs of New York State every other year for like a weekend long of singing together in a mass course and individual concerts. And back in the days, back in the days, I mean up until about 8 years ago, there were also singing competitions and whatnot. So there's all of that definitely around here. Of course, like I said, it's more of an Irish area than the rest. Although ironically, in the county that I live in, everybody knows the Irish organization and the Italian organization, but our German organization is actually the oldest cultural organization in our county. And
pardon my ignorance on this, but there's also certain Protestant denominations that have roots in Germany, right?
Yes, absolutely. Protestantism itself is actually of German origin, so to speak. It was Martin Luther,
Lutheran,
the priest back then, or was it a monk? I don't know. But he said, you know what, you Roman Catholics, you're way too strict. And he founded Protestantism essentially in the 1500s in Germany as a back then splinter group from the Roman Catholic Church.
Anytime you're driving past an old school Lutheran church in the States, you're passing through an area that you can surmise had German influence or a German population at one point. Literally, learned delicatessen is German. Andrea typed to me, I just said wow out loud, LOL. I have a feeling many of our American listeners just went, wait, what? Delicatessen is German? Kindergarten is such an obvious one. We really do have roots as sort of an English-German stronghold with other immigrant groups chipping their way in. And the history of the English involvement is very well remembered. The history of the German involvement, it's really not taught and really not remembered nearly as well, when I think it was just as influential.
I mean, we all know why that happened, judgment free. As you said it earlier, there was somewhat of an not necessarily orchestrated attempt, but there was definitely a period where anything German related was ignored or potentially shunned, but also hidden away by German immigrants themselves. I know of people in my choir that back in the day, the grandparents spoke German at home, and they very much said to the kids, no, you learn English. Like, you got to learn English. You can't be speaking German when you're out and about.
Wow. What a strange thing. I've also even heard that the Amish and I think the Mennonites as well speak a dialect known as Pennsylvania Dutch, which if I've read up on it correctly, it is not German, but that I could be totally wrong on this, but I believe I've read that German speakers and Pennsylvania Dutch speakers can figure each other's languages out, even though they're not the same language, that they go back to common roots to the point where you can maybe not speak it, but understand it, that type of thing.
Oh, yeah, it's very interesting. I do remember especially about the Pennsylvania Dutch when I was still in Germany learning about that in school. And yeah, it's ultimately you just take German and English, throw it in a blender, and out comes a jumble of where a sentence consists kind of half English, half German words. And yeah, like there's this one sentence: Neulich sahen mir die Pigs über the fence gehoppt und haben mir die ganzen potatoes gedamaged. It's still like ingrained in my brain as one of those sample sentences. The pigs hopped over the fence and damaged my potatoes. I think you were able to pretty much understand half of that sentence.
I heard potatoes got damaged. I was watching the Ken Burns American Revolution documentary, and I didn't realize how influential Germany was on both sides of the American Revolution. Another thing that I think we don't get taught about, because on the British side, they employed, at that point, it wasn't Germany, but it was, where Germany exists now. But the Hessians were mercenaries brought over. And this was, one thing I didn't know is that I had always been aware of this growing up in New Jersey. There's so much of the revolution happened here. We're taught it as kids. There's actually a rumor in my family that my name, Gethard, which vaguely seems related to a bunch of German-sounding last names. There's a bunch of names kind of like mine, but not in Germany. There's actually a family rumor that side of my family is descended from Hessian soldiers who, a lot of them jumped ship, and were like, we don't want to go back to being mercenaries sent all over the world to fight. So there's actually a rumor that's where the Gethard name comes from. Somebody who wanted to vaguely change a name from like Goddard or Gephardt, change it enough that they wouldn't get caught, and then foolishly picked Gethard as the phonetic spelling of it. So not the smartest Hessian soldier at the headwaters of this, if it is true. And then on the colonial side, one of the most influential guys in the colonial army was a German. Von Steuben, Baron von Steuben came over and kind of taught the American troops how to be a real army. And apparently, from what I've seen on that documentary and read, he was kind of a disgraced somewhat. I think today he was busted for hooking up with young guys. So the Epstein style of our aristocracy has been here since the revolution, because even von Steuben apparently was dabbling with some behaviors that were frowned upon. But in an effort to kind of reclaim some sense of glory and honor, you could do that through the military. And he came over and whipped us into shape. But he was apparently like a very specific dandy of a German guy who came in and kicked our army's ass until we got our act together. I did not know that. That's interesting. But it's almost like history repeats itself. It's almost as if this country has always had a legacy of aristocratic people doing creepy sexual behaviors, right back to founding father Thomas Jefferson himself, who we have monuments to. And then you look into it, you go, oh, we've always had a habit of hiding the very strange behaviors of the aristocrats in this country. And it seems to really be coming to a head now in a way that's scary. And what a time to get your American citizenship. Just as all the Epstein revelations come to light. What a time. What a time.
Yeah. It was definitely, the timing was pretty good in a sense, because I could have already had the American citizenship way, way early on, but the problem was I would have lost my German citizenship, which, no offense, I would never do that.
Yeah.
And then just Germany changed its citizenship law in early 2024, and that allowed me finally, without any special works or any kind of hassle, to obtain dual citizenship. And I said, okay, let me do that now, because we don't know what happens in the election in November 2024.
Did you have people back home giving you shit of like, why would you want to be an American citizen? Were people giving you the business on it?
Yeah. There were definitely people asking these questions.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that's so sad.
One of the things I always wanted to do was to help out in actual elections. I always wanted to be a poll worker, and I once walked into the Board of Elections here and asked them, and of course I very much understand that, and they said, no, you cannot be an American you cannot work at the polls unless you're an American citizen. So I got my citizenship on September 6th in 2024. And a week later, I walked to the Board of Education to register as a voter. And I told them, hey, I'd also be willing to work the election. And I have in 2024 and 2025 each worked the November elections then too. And that was one of the things I couldn't have done if I wasn't a citizen. And then on the other end, of course, it makes traveling back and forth a lot easier too.
I'm about to do it for the first time today. I got my Irish citizenship a few years back. I've never used that passport for anything. I've had it 8 years at this point, and I'm finally going to use it. I'm going to the UK, and I realized there's a bunch of paperwork I don't have to fill out because I got the Irish passport and they have a travel agreement. I'm psyched.
It makes it so easy.
It just also feels cool to flash one. You flash one passport and at one customs agency, you flash the other passport at the other customs agency. You feel cool. You feel like a citizen of the world.
Yeah, that's always very funny. Whenever I travel, of course, I have both passports with me. After the wedding, when we traveled, a few weeks after the wedding, my wife and her family would travel to Germany to have a little bit of a celebration there with a bunch of other people from Europe that couldn't make it, and also just to have like a family vacation trip. And we arrived in Germany, and it was all easy in the US getting through security. We're all American passport, blah blah. Not that matters back there. And then Germany, we arrived, and I was like, all right, guys, I'll see you on the other side whenever you're done. And I just strolled through the EU citizen line.
I'm going to run into this when I go to Germany with Hallie. Hallie and I have mentioned this on the show. We do not travel well together. Every difference in our personality gets amplified by 1,000. Like, I'm someone who, not to fit any cliches, but like if my roots are with a Hessian soldier, I like being on time in a very, what you might say is a cliche German way.
So much.
I love being on time. Being early feels amazing. Being on time, I did okay.
Oh, yeah.
Being late, even if there's no consequence, drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. Hallie does not prescribe to these.
I'm the exact same way. Yeah.
Now, listen, my wife is arguably a much happier and more relaxed person than I am because she's not all hung up on stuff like this. But I have made it clear to her that when we go to Germany together, that I will be using my EU passport, and then I will meet her on the other side. And I've tried to frame it as, it's meaningful, and it is. I got my Irish citizenship. I'm connected with my family's roots. I visited my grandfather's village. I got copies of his birth certificate and his marriage certificate, and death certificate. That was a journey that I went on that was deeply meaningful. And to use my European passport in Europe will mean something to me. I can't lie. There is also a part of me that knows that I will not be able to function mentally if I'm unnecessarily waiting on a line to use an American passport when I could have breezed through a much shorter line. It will actually push me to the brink of madness. Can't do it.
Yeah, no. If I can, I will not. I will not wait. It's my wife. Thank God, is perfectly fine with that. So yeah, those travels to Germany that we've done so far together, it was always easy breezy, and she would just have to wait. And I would just organize other stuff on the other end already if I can. But I have to say, and one thing I'm really happy for when it comes to these kinds of things, being on time and whatnot, my wife and I, we are so much alike on that, which is really great.
It's one of the greatest sources of fighting is I am so into being on time. Hallie doesn't care. Like I said, she's probably she's a less stressed out person than I am because of it. But when we travel, it just comes to light. And man, is it a source of stress. But I just realized I'm going to Mainz and Frankfurt. I also realized I wish I had more time, but my parents are going to be watching Cal, sending them to school for over a week. I wish I could go to Berlin. To go to Germany for the first time and not go to Berlin is a missed opportunity. It's one of the world's great cities. So I know I got to go back.
No.
I hear nothing but
great. I do heavily disagree on that one.
Really?
Yes.
You're the first person I've ever heard say a bad word about Berlin.
I haven't said a bad word yet. I'm only saying I'm disagreeing about it's a must-see, or that it's so great to go there. here's the thing. Like, Berlin is Berlin. Don't like, I don't want to knock it, but I'm kind of knocking it right now with purpose. It's historically, it's got a lot of cool things going for it, especially having been, the divided city, the Berlin Wall, Checkpoint Charlie, what have you. There's a lot of other historic things there which are cool. The German government is seated there. You can take a tour through the Parliament building or whatnot. That's really cool and all. But for the rest of it, I mean, if you're a diehard techno guy and you want to go to like Club Berghain and whatnot, sure, do your thing. And the clubbing scene in Berlin is, from what I've heard, really great. But
I'm not a club guy. I think you've picked up on this.
I've been there. Yeah, Berlin is not a German city. Berlin is to Germany what New York City is to the U.S.
Interesting.
It's a great city. It's cool. But if you want to see and experience Germany, don't go there. It's even so much so because it is such an international city, you will sit down in restaurants and wait stuff without even knowing where you're from. Will automatically start speaking to you in English, taking your orders in English. Not saying that's a bad thing, but that's just to emphasize how much it is not German city.
So you think me seeing Mainz and Frankfurt is a little bit more potential to actually get a taste of Germany?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. I can't wait to tell Hallie. She's going to be so excited you said that. I've also realized, though, am I going to be immersed? Am I going to be immersed in a culture where everyone values being on time, where that's just an assumed thing and everyone likes things being efficient and orderly and on time? Because I'll be in heaven.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's a vacation for me. That's my vacation. We
are known for that, and we're known for that for a reason, yes.
Oh, that sounds like my vacation.
I'll give you one more travel tip.
Yes, please.
I'll give you one more travel tip. If you ever make it back to Germany, do not go to Oktoberfest either. I've been there a few times.
Interest.
Oktoberfest is overrated. If you do want to see a really great beer fest, go to any of the smaller cities. Like, my city, 130,000 people. Beer fest twice a year, one in spring, a short and small one, and the main one in July. And that's where it's at. You got one single event. It's big enough for like several thousand people, but no matter where you sit, you got a great view to the music, the stage, this and that. You don't wait 30 minutes for your drinks. Prices are okay, and you still got the entire fun fair area outside with all of the rides. Oktoberfest, don't go. It's not worth it.
Now, this is such good advice. But you did say, if you really want to get a taste of Germany, just going to Berlin is almost like coming to the States and only going to New York. It's an international city. I've realized I haven't asked you, have you traveled the States much outside of the area where you wound up living?
Yes. I've been to LA and Huntington Beach for about a week, very early on. I've been to Delaware a bunch of times, Boston a handful of times. Of course, New York City a lot when you only live, a few hours away from it. I've been to DC. I want to go back to DC again. I've also, due to my work, traveled to a few cities. I've been to Pittsburgh. Gotta go back there again before Easter. Not looking forward to it. I don't think it's a really great city.
I love Pittsburgh.
Sorry for the people from Pittsburgh.
I love Pittsburgh.
Been to Atlanta. And one of the cities that I really enjoyed a lot was Savannah. Savannah is, I think, one of those cities in America that's just fantastic.
I was just there a few months ago, and man, that's a city that even for all the Americans listening, because I think, the Americans know, our international listeners are sometimes a little shocked. America's so large, you might spend your whole life in one region of America and not ever get to it. But yes, put Savannah towards the top of your list. I agree on that. That's a very, very unique place.
Absolutely. I want to go back. Now I want to go back again.
You slammed Pittsburgh, but you listed Delaware early. You put Delaware early. And I can almost guarantee that most of the Americans listening, if even ones with an extensive travel list, might not have gone to Delaware all that often, if at all. But you listed Delaware with no qualms, and then you slammed Pittsburgh, which I think is a great town.
Delaware has one of my favorite breweries in the U.S. As a German, I guess it needs to be stated. love the brewery and the beaches down there. I was in the area of Lewis, which is right from Rehoboth Beach, right nearby, which that's like the tourist hotspot for people going to Delaware beaches. I love going to the beaches down there. You got within just like 15, 20 minutes car ride distance, you got to choose between a busy beach with high waves, a not busy beach with high waves, and a not busy beach with not high waves, depending on what you're in the mood for. You got, like I said, the great brewery there. And then what's also really nice, we've done that once, is take a little day trip down to Assateague Island National Park. For those that don't know, wild horses on the beach. That's all I'm saying. It's fantastic.
I've never been, and it's on the bucket list. I've always heard that the wild horse experience is really, really incredible.
It was amazing. And I'm not a horse person, so.
It's funny. You just listed a number of places where I imagine that you are more well-traveled in America than a significant percentage of Americans, just based on the places you just listed.
That is possible.
Indeed. I feel so lucky that I've been able to talk to you. I feel so happy to hear about some of your experiences, and the living situation you landed in is one of the funniest ones I've ever heard of. And I'm so glad that it was wholesome and positive.
I'm glad you feel that way. Like I said, it felt crazy in the beginning. Now it is just part of my life. But yeah, I very much am still aware that that's very unusual.
Yeah. Indeed it is. I'm glad. I'm sure you're glad to be on the other side of it, and I'm glad to hear that after what sounds like a really rough stretch, let alone in a country you didn't grow up in, that you landed on your feet, found someone new, found a community, and what a story. And feels strange because hearing that you're heading back home in the next couple of years. I wonder how you feel about it. I feel strange talking to you now, going like, oh, this sort of American chapter is something that you're going to actively close soon. But I wonder, do you on any level feel American based on your American experience here, your American citizenship here? How real is that feeling of Americanism, especially in light of how many Americans right now are pushing back against the idea of America being a land of immigrants? I wonder how you feel in terms of being American.
So let me preface this by saying that I never made an active attempt to not be American. It was more so that I was always very connected to the area where I'm from. So much so that actually a few years ago, my first ever tattoo is an outline of the area with a coat of arms right on my chest. I always try to very much stay in touch with my German side. I mean, I'm in a German choir. I listen and watch German news every day. On my podcast app, there's over 100 podcasts that I subscribe to, of which over half of them are from Germany. I have to say, honestly, I don't feel too American, and it's not by design or on purpose. It's the way life has happened. I still feel very much like I'm a German in the U.S.
I have to say that as soon as you wind up with that passport, I grew up in a way where I'm like, cool, welcome, you're American, come hang out, you're one of us now, and that's awesome. And being able to be where you're from and a part of being of here now is part of what's cool about the place. And I sadly think that is an attitude that has changed, and I feel very bummed about that.
Yeah, I think that from my outside perspective, that a lot has changed in the cultural landscape in the country here, where it's to a certain degree a lot less inviting, I guess, to certain groups of people. Let's put it like that. And that's one of the things I was always very cognizant about, is that I am just one of those people that is not part of those groups of people.
Yeah. Well, we ended on kind of a bummer note, but overall, I will say, what a joyous call. Please enjoy your last couple of years here. Enjoy your time back in Germany. Thank you for the tips.
Thank you
for the...
You have a great, safe travel.
Oh, thank you. I'll do my best. And what a stellar story about one of the strangest and funniest living situations I've ever heard of. Are you cool to hang out for a few more minutes for the 5 questions?
Absolutely, yes.
Caller, thank you so much for your call. I think it's fair to say that was one of the funnier situations I've ever heard of as far as your living situation goes, and honestly, one of the most charming calls in the 10-year history of the show. Have to say thanks to Andrea Quinn for producing the show, and because it's the 10-year anniversary, thank you to everybody who's had a hand in producing the show over the years. Also, huge, massive thanks to our friends in Shellshag who provide our theme music. Please go support Shellshag, the musical accompaniment of Beautiful Anonymous, 10 years running now. My friends in Shellshag, 2 beautiful people who make a lot of great music. Join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram. We're getting the TikTok up and running again. Tell people we exist. We're out here for a decade. I hope it's a decade more. Thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you next time. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. If you had the power to minorly inconvenience people who pissed you off during the day, what would you have happen to them?
I know this is gonna be probably sound a bit crude, but I want them to have a really bad itch that they can't scratch for at least an hour around their butthole.
Specifically the butthole.
Yes. Do you know how annoying it is? Like when you occasionally, like once every 15 months, get this one itch and you just can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a cruel thing to wish upon people, and your hyper-focused location of choice does make it about as bad as it can get, for sure. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.